What happens when America's most beloved home renovation star goes head-to-head with one of morning TV's most trusted hosts? The answer might surprise you. What began as a routine promotional appearance quickly unraveled into one of the most uncomfortable clashes daytime television has ever broadcast. Joanna Gaines, famous for her calm presence, gracious Southern charm, and polished brand, found herself in a heated back and forth that left viewers stunned, questioning not just her image, but Hoda Kotb's too. Before we break down this shocking moment, make sure you're subscribed and let me know in the comments what you think triggered this explosive exchange. The day began like any other at the Today Show studios in New York. Joanna had flown in from Texas to promote her latest bestseller, a hybrid of family recipes and home design inspiration. In the green room, she was the picture of effortless style. Her long, dark hair perfectly in place, dressed in a cream sweater that captured her approachable but refined persona. The producers had briefed her. Simple questions, lighthearted chatter about her new project, her life with Chip, and the continued success of the Magnolia Empire. Everything about it was supposed to be routine. Across the studio, Hoda Kotb prepared in her usual whirlwind fashion, coffee in hand, notes scattered. She'd interviewed Joanna before. Their past conversations had been warm, even playful, with plenty of shared laughs about parenting struggles and the chaos of raising 5 kids while running a media empire. But this time, something was different. As Hoda reviewed her research, she noticed inconsistencies in Joanna's recent public comments, and Hoda, the seasoned journalist beneath the sunny exterior, decided she couldn't ignore them. The cameras went live. Joining us now, Hoda beamed, is the woman who has transformed not just homes, but an entire industry. Please welcome Joanna Gaines. Applause filled the studio as Joanna walked on, smiling brightly at the audience. Thank you so much for having me, Hoda, she said warmly, settling into her seat with polished ease, hands folded neatly in her lap, posture impeccable. We love having you here. Hoda replied smoothly, holding up Joanna's new book for the cameras. This is beautiful. The photography, the design, it's stunning. Tell us about the inspiration behind blending family recipes with home design. Joanna lit up, delivering her well-practiced talking points. For me, Hoda, it's always been about creating spaces where families gather. Food and design both nourish us. One feeds the body, the other the soul. This book is a celebration of how those two worlds come together in everyday life. That's lovely, Hoda nodded, but her tone carried an edge. She wasn't done. Speaking of family and authenticity, I want to ask you about something that's been making headlines in the design world. There have been discussions about labor practices on Magnolia projects, specifically whether contractors and craftspeople are being compensated fairly. The change in atmosphere was immediate. Joanna's smile stayed in place but tightened, her hands folded more firmly. Well, Hoda, she began carefully, I think there's been some misinformation. We've always taken pride in hiring local artisans and paying competitive rates. Competitive rates? Yes, Hoda pressed. But some former contractors have come forward saying the pay doesn't match the high-end results viewers see, or the profits those homes generate. One carpenter said he worked on 3 Magnolia projects and felt the compensation didn't reflect the craftsmanship required. Joanna shifted slightly in her chair, clasping her hands tighter. We've always worked within industry standards. Every contractor knows the terms up front, and no one has raised these concerns directly with us. But isn't it possible, Hoda interrupted gently but firmly, that contractors might hesitate to voice those concerns, given the power imbalance and the risk of losing future work? The studio grew tense. Joanna's smile faltered, her voice sharpening beneath the southern lilt. I appreciate the implication, Hoda, but our entire brand is built on integrity, Chip and I didn't grow up with money. We know what it means to work hard for every dollar, and we treat people fairly. I'm not questioning your values or your upbringing, Hoda replied, leaning in. I'm asking about current practices, because when you're selling million-dollar homes and commanding 7 figures for renovations, shouldn't that prosperity extend to everyone who helps bring your vision to life? Hoda leaned forward, her voice steady but unwavering. What exactly are you suggesting, Joanna? That this is some kind of personal attack? Because what I'm asking isn't false. It's not meant to insult. It's meant to clarify. Joanna's composure flickered. Her voice lifted slightly, betraying the frustration beneath her practiced calm. Clarify. Hoda, what you're suggesting is that we exploit the very people who help us build our vision. That's not only false, it's offensive. I'm suggesting, Hoda countered, measured but firm, that when your brand is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, there's a responsibility that comes with that success. And right now, people are questioning whether that responsibility is truly being met. The audience grew still. The laughter and lightness that usually filled this studio had been replaced with a silence so heavy, it was almost suffocating. Joanna drew in a breath, straightening her shoulders. I came here to talk about my book, to inspire families to create spaces they love, not to be ambushed with accusations that have no foundation. I respect that, Hoda replied evenly. But as a journalist, I can't ignore the questions your fans are asking. Your brand is built on trust and authenticity. Transparency is part of that promise? Joanna's eyes flashed. Then let me be transparent. We directly employ more than 200 people across our businesses. We've revitalized a town that was dying economically. We've poured opportunities into communities that were struggling. But somehow, none of that matters, because a few people decide to twist our story for headlines. Her warmth was gone now, her words sharpened to a defensive edge. No one's twisting anything, Hoda said, her voice calm but cutting. These are workers who lived those experiences. One electrician told us he was expected to pull 60-hour weeks for standard pay, just to meet TV deadlines. Another said material costs were deducted from his paycheck without prior agreement. These aren't headlines, Joanna. These are people's lives. Joanna's hands began to move as she spoke, her frustration spilling into her gestures. Those are isolated incidents, Hoda. In any business this size, things happen. Miscommunications, misunderstandings. To turn those into some grand narrative of exploitation, that's irresponsible. So you admit there were incidents? Hoda pressed, her tone even but deliberate. Because earlier you said no one had ever expressed these concerns directly. I'm saying, Joanna snapped, that in a company with hundreds of projects, if you go looking for flaws, you'll always find something. That doesn't mean there's a systemic issue. Her voice trembled slightly, the crack exposing just how hard she was working to keep control. But shouldn't those moments, isolated or not, be opportunities to do better? Hoda asked. When your brand sells itself on family values, community, and doing things differently, doesn't that raise the standard of accountability? We're held to impossible standards. Joanna shot back, her voice breaking with emotion. Every decision we make is scrutinized. Every interaction is dissected by people who have never built a business, never carried the weight of hundreds of employees. It's exhausting, and it's unfair. That scrutiny comes with being public figures, Hoda said gently, though her words carried weight. You built an empire by telling people you are different, that you care more, that you do things the right way. When that image is challenged, the way you respond matters. The response matters? Joanna repeated, her voice rising. What would satisfy you, Hoda? Should we apologize for success? Should we pay contractors double just to quiet critics? Should we stop creating jobs altogether because some people prefer to magnify problems instead of celebrating progress? I'm not asking you to apologize for success, Hoda replied, leaning in now, her tone low but firm. I'm asking you to acknowledge that with great influence comes greater responsibility. Young entrepreneurs look to you as a model. Families save money to hire contractors because of your brand. Don't you think there's an obligation to make sure your practices are as ethical as they are profitable? Joanna's eyes flashed, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt. Ethical? Now you're questioning our ethics? Hoda, Chip, and I have sacrificed everything for this. Privacy, family time, peace of mind, all to inspire people, to create something meaningful. And this is what I get? Attacked on national television by someone I thought was a friend. The audience shifted, some glancing nervously at one another. Hoda didn't flinch. I am your friend, Joanna, which is exactly why I'm asking these questions. Because friends don't just smile and nod when accountability is at stake. Friends ask the hard questions. Your platform gives you incredible influence, and people trust you, Hoda said, her voice carrying an undercurrent of urgency now. That trust comes with responsibility. Don't lecture me about responsibility, Joanna snapped, her southern drawl thickening as emotion broke through her polished exterior. We've donated millions. We've rebuilt entire communities. We've created thousands of jobs. But apparently none of that counts if a handful of disgruntled contractors decide to air their grievances on TV. Her hands tightened in her lap, knuckles bone white against the beige fabric of her sweater. It's not about a handful of contractors, Hoda countered, leaning forward, her tone calm but piercing. It's about whether success is shared or hoarded. When you're making millions per episode and selling homes for 7 figures, shouldn't the people who physically build those dreams see some reflection of that success in their paychecks? The audience shifted uneasily. The energy in the room had turned electric, dangerous. You have no idea what our financial obligations look like, Joanna shot back, her voice rising. Insurance costs, legal fees, equipment, crew salaries, post-production. It's easy to sit there and judge when you've never actually run a business of this scale. Then help me understand, Hoda said, her tone tightening, each word deliberate. Walk us through how you ensure that success benefits everyone involved. Because right now, it looks like the executives and faces on camera are thriving, while the people on the ground are just scraping by. That landed like a gut punch. Joanna froze. Her jaw tightened. Her whole body seemed to coil, silent fury radiating beneath the hot studio lights. You want me to explain our business model on national television, Joanna said finally, her voice low and dangerous. You want me to justify every decision Chip and I have made? This isn't journalism, Hoda. This is a hit job. It's not a hit job, Hoda replied firmly, though even she looked rattled by Joanna's intensity. It's accountability. You built your empire by selling yourself as a role model, a leader. Questions like these come with the territory. I'm giving you a chance to address them directly. Opportunity? Joanna repeated, her voice dripping with bitterness. This doesn't feel like an opportunity. This feels like a trap. You invited me here under the guise of a friendly chat about my book, and instead, you've blindsided me with accusations you don't even understand. I understand enough, Hoda said sharply now. I understand that when you build a brand on family values and fairness, people have every right to ask whether those values extend to how you treat the people who make your vision possible. That's not an interrogation. That's basic accountability. Joanna leaned forward, her eyes flashing. Basic accountability? You sit there in your designer clothes, with your $1 million network contract, questioning me about payroll. When was the last time you had to worry about making payroll, Hoda? When was the last time you risked everything to keep hundreds of people employed during a recession? The gloves were off now. My salary isn't built on the backs of craftspeople whose work I claim to represent. Hoda fired back, her professional facade finally cracking. You've made yourself the face of American authenticity, while apparently underpaying the very people who give that image life. That's the difference, Joanna. Underpaying, Joanna repeated bitterly, standing so abruptly that her chair screeched across the studio floor. The audience gasped. You throw that word around like it's fact when it's nothing but opinion. We pay competitive wages. We follow labor laws. We provide steady work in an unstable industry. But because it doesn't fit your narrative, suddenly it's not good enough? Joanna, please, Hoda said quickly, realizing how far things had gone. Sit down. We're still live. No, Joanna shot back, her voice cutting through the tense silence. I won't sit down. I won't sit here and be lectured by someone who has never built anything, never employed anyone, never risked failure to create something meaningful. You sit in this studio and pass judgment on people who are actually out there doing the work. Her voice echoed across the hushed room, raw and thunderous. That's not fair, and you know it, Hoda snapped, her own volume rising. I've spent decades holding powerful people accountable. That's journalism, Joanna. That's my work. Important stories. Joanna scoffed, taking a deliberate step back from the chair, putting distance between herself and Hoda. If this is your idea of important storytelling, trying to tear down someone who's made a positive difference, then maybe you should ask yourself who's really chasing a viral moment here. The cameras captured everything. Joanna, standing tall, eyes blazing, Hoda still seated but visibly rattled, the air between them charged with betrayal and defiance. I'm proud of asking tough questions that need to be asked. If you can't handle being questioned about your business practices, maybe you shouldn't be running a public company and positioning yourself as a thought leader. Hoda responded, rising to her feet as well. The veneer of a polished interview was gone. This was a duel. Can't handle being questioned. Joanna snapped back, her voice sharp enough to cut the air. I've been sitting here for 20 minutes, answering every accusation you've thrown at me, while you twist each response into something damning. This isn't journalism, Hoda. This is ambush television, and I won't be part of it any longer. She reached for her microphone pack, fingers steady despite the storm in her eyes. Joanna, please, Hoda said quickly, her voice laced with urgency as she realized the interview was spiraling beyond recovery. We can work through this conversation like adults. Adults? Joanna shot back with an incredulous laugh. Adults don't lure guests under false pretenses to sandbag them on live television. Adults don't dress up personal attacks as accountability. What you've done here is neither journalism nor integrity. She yanked the mic free, letting it fall to the studio floor with a piercing thud that echoed across the set. These aren't personal attacks. They're real concerns, Hoda insisted, her words carrying a note of desperation. Concerns raised by real people who worked for your company and deserve answers. Real people with real grievances, Joanna fired back, taking several purposeful steps toward the edge of the set, that you've chosen to exploit without giving me a fair chance to address them. You already decided the story you wanted before I walked out here. Nothing I say was ever going to change your narrative. The story I want to tell, Hoda countered, her voice straining to hold on to authority, is the truth. If you walk away now, you walk away from the chance to tell your side of that truth. Joanna froze mid-step, then slowly turned back, her eyes burning into Hoda's as the cameras zoomed closer, capturing every flicker of emotion. My side of the truth, she said, her voice low but resonant, filling the room. My side is 20 years of sacrifice, hundreds of jobs created, communities rebuilt from the ground up, families inspired to believe they could build something beautiful together. If that's not good enough for you, then there is nothing more to discuss. And with that, she turned and walked off set, leaving Hoda standing alone beneath the unforgiving studio lights. The camera crew scrambled, producers gestured frantically, and the audience sat in stunned silence, barely processing what had just unraveled before them. We'll be right back, Hoda said weakly as the feed cut to commercial. But the truth was clear to everyone watching. Nothing would be quite the same when the cameras returned. So there you have it, one of the most shocking moments in daytime television history. What began as a routine book promotion erupted into a career-defining confrontation. What do you think really triggered Joanna's dramatic exit? Was Hoda's questioning fair journalism? Or did it cross into ambush territory? Hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments which side you think was right in this explosive clash